Yes. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's Fugitive Arc. The only period in the game where everyone acts like a Mudkip is the next Adolf. This is the only time that I'm aware that Pokemon has done this. They frame you as a criminal, it's actually quite interesting, and it's actually my favorite part of Rescue Team DX. It's just clever, and I just like the dungeons themselves featured in this segment of the game. So, let's jump down the line and look back on this interesting arc. Alright, let's review some plot up to this point. You, a human that gets turned into a Pokemon, wake up and meet your partner. Together, you form a rescue team, and you've had the goal of becoming the best rescue team in the land, and also find out why the hell you're a Pokemon. You've met some cool and not so cool people, like the mighty rescue team led by Alakazam, and Team Meanies led by Gengar, which still gives me chills to this day over that bone-chilling name. Alright, that's it. So the fugitive starts after you climb the Great Canyon and talk to Xatu, which has been a little goal of yours for a bit. You talk to Xatu, the psychic that stares at the sun and somehow knows everything, finding out the world is imbalanced, and many calamities have actually been happening, and your transformation into a Pokemon is directly linked to it. And something must be done to restore the balance, or else the unthinkable will happen. Unfortunately, Xatu can't give us more, so we head back to base, but little did we know, a little turd named Gengar was watching us, and is now aware of your true identity. You wake up confused still, wondering about your interaction from yesterday. You and your pal head to the good old square where you hear them talking about this Ninetales legend. You can't seem to find out what it is in specific, so you ask the ever-knowing Wishcash about it, and he tells you everything you need to know. The legend goes that one day a trainer touched a Ninetales' tail, which gave him a 1,000-year-long curse. But before that could happen, their partner Gardevoir sacrificed herself to save them. Ninetales asked the trainer if they wished to save Gardevoir, but the human didn't even get to answer that because they already dipped by then. Ninetales made a prediction that one day that same human would become a Pokemon and would cause the world to become imbalanced. Now you and your pal start to worry that you are that human that left their partner and actually start to believe it. Your partner becomes so worried that they call off any missions for today due to a lack of motivation. And they even start to doubt you for a moment before forgiving you immediately because they're awesome. But they still decide to rest for the day and get back to the grind tomorrow. So you head to sleep, hoping for answers. And you have one of these recurring dreams where it's pretty obvious now that the Pokemon that has been perpetrating your dreams is Gardevoir, leading the player to believe that you are actually that same human. Your actual Heat character also realizes this and even gets to talk to Gardevoir, and they are now scared for the same reason that the player may be. You hide the information from your partner at first, but there's some commotion at the square, and it wouldn't be good commotion. You walk in and see everybody gathered around Gengar for some reason, but you get to watch as you see why. Gengar spills the beans about his sightings on the night of the Xatu encounter, and tells everyone that you are the Ninetales legend person. You're left speechless at this response, and head back to the base to regroup with your buddy. Your partner becomes pissed at you, wondering why you just didn't say anything to defend yourself, and that's when you reveal that you want to end the team now because of your realization from last night. But your partner luckily has a brain and knows that you don't even know if that's true or not. You could just not be the Pokemon for the legend. It could just be a coincidence that Gardevoir is just there in your dreams. But before getting finished their response, there's someone that walks over. Alakazam and his mighty team, and tells you guys that everyone will be after you guys after a town meeting, and that includes themselves, and that there's no guarantee on what them or anybody will do to you. They are willing to do anything to save the world once the next morning comes, allowing you to prepare for this grueling journey just for tonight. You and your partner are now wanted fugitives, beginning the arc, and it's time to run away. You and your partner wake up early and hit the ground running. At least some Pokemon still bothered to say goodbye to you because they still believe in you. After running for hours and hours and seeing all of the calamities that Xatu warned you about, your partner take a quick break in front of the cave entrance to ponder of your adventure so far. But not for too long, because your partner hears voices and tells you to immediately dip into the cave with them. So that's what you do. You head to Lapis Cave, and it's actually the first dungeon of the Fugitive arc. And it's actually a nice, refreshing ride, and it's just nice, fun, and easy dungeon, which is nice and awesome. Once you and your partner exit, it's time for more running, because the mobs still see you, but you end up with an obstacle in front of you. The deadly Mount Blaze, and you must traverse it to get rid of the hunters for a bit, because most won't have the balls to come after you there. Before heading in, you can go onto the Rock Path dungeon for some items, and that also applies to the next dungeons after this one. But you probably won't need that because you probably prepared from the night before your running even started. Alright, now it's actually time for the dungeon. Mount Blaze isn't that deadly at all, until the final floors because of the scorching sun and the annoying Arcanines, but eventually you'll reach the summit. And then, you won't be meted by something pleasant. Yeah, it's the legendary bird Voltrace, and he is pissed. He wants vengeance because of your intruding, and it also thinks that you are causing the natural calamities on the mountain, which is a possibility. The boss fight isn't too difficult, but I found it to be a nice challenge. After defeating it and almost getting scorched to death, you explain why you are here and the bird forgives you. He also lets you pass on one condition, that being you save the world from the calamities. Unfortunately, there isn't much time to rest after that boss fight. You and your partner must be trekking on for more hours, in even more rough terrain, until you stop at the Frosty Forest and its frigid surroundings. You get scared by an Absol on your way there, but you head into the next dungeon prepared. Frosty Forest is definitely more challenging than the others so far, but it still isn't that bad, and there's yet another legendary bird at the end of the dungeon, unfortunately. Articuno is more of an asshole. He won't let you pass, and tells you that it's forbidden unless you defeat it. And after a relatively more challenging boss fight compared to Moltres, the bird doesn't even believe your excuse for the calamities in the forest, and tries to murder you immediately on the spot. But luckily, Absol from earlier knocks some sense into the bird before you get blasted to bits. He also tells the bird that you weren't lying about the other calamities around the lands. But of course, we have to tell Articuno the same promise as Moltres because, yeah, of course. Absol also decides to join your party for the rest of the arc, and he's also there for the rest of the game anyways. And I also just used him for the rest of the game just because he's awesome. Your party, now consisting of 3, heads more north and encounters more, even worse conditions. You and your partner in specific aren't doing too well. Absol will just be chilling. Unfortunately, but suddenly you get hit with a massive spasm of dizziness, and then you see her again, Gardevoir. She tells you that you've arrived, and she's been waiting for you to come here to Mount Freeze. You even get to see her right in front of you, even though everyone else can't and thinks you're having a schizo attack. Gardevoir tells you to climb Mount Freeze and meet Ninetales, and that's what your party do, and you must do anything to try to clear your name and know the truth. Mount Freeze is fucking beautiful, but looks are deceiving, because this is by far the hardest dungeon in the arc, which makes sense because it is the final one. If it wasn't this long, I would say that this would be my second hardest dungeon in the arc, behind Frosty Forest. You finally make it to the top, but there's no Ninetales. Instead, you are met by Alakazam's team. Well, they don't meet you, they just kind of sneak up on you. They have finally caught up to you, and it's now time for you to get fucked. But actually, you don't. You actually do well in the fight until a Ninetales appears and interrupts it and tells you the truth. Even though there's so many parallels to your stories, the legend is true, but you are not the same human from the same legend, clearing your name. And that's just an awesome moment to see. Your partner just jumps out and hugs you. Ninetales also says that the human turning into a Pokémon would have nothing to do with the world's balance. The balance is being disrupted by something else, however. Unfortunately, the ground starts to shake, and the legendary beast Groudon is awakened, and now Alakazam's team heads out for it. At long last, you've returned home, with everyone now knowing that Gengar's a lying piece of shit, thanks to the help of your people that actually believed in you. You are now no longer a fugitive, and that's the end of the arc. So yeah, that's the end of the fugitive arc in this game, and it's actually pretty damn awesome, and I love it. It's such an emotional ride, getting feelings of absurdity and mystery. What if someone finally catches up to your team? What if you are that same human that left their Pokemon in a moment of need? While it kinda sucks that Gengar didn't get his ass kicked the moment everyone knew the truth, he still gets some type of punishment, which is very rewarding. I like all of the dungeons featured on this arc, with the 2 mountains being my favorite by far, and they actually might just be some of my favorite dungeons in the entire game in general. The only dungeon I'd also put up there is Sky Tower. I don't know, something about this orc is just sick in every way, and it's by far my favorite part of the game. While it is quite goofy, especially that fight scene at the end, I still think it's awesome, and that's where I want to leave this on. Overall, while Pokemon isn't used to these types of topics, they actually nailed it out of the ballpark for their first try at it, and I'm very happy for that. That's the end. Thanks for watching. Peace.